Council come to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
I know.
All right, Mandy, could you please call the roll?
DeYoung.
Here.
Vanderhorst.
Here.
Danstruck.
Here.
Hopkins.
Here.
Spore. Here. Steve-Out is absent.
Okay, thank you. Just a reminder, if you're attending via the telephone, you will be able to provide verbal comments during the dedicated public forums and public hearings. I would just ask that please keep your microphones or telephones on mute until the time at which you want to speak. Can I get a motion for approval of the tentative agenda?
So moved.
Support.
Vanstra, Branderhorst, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Danstruck.
Yes.
Vanderhorst.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Spore.
Yes.
DeYoung.
Yes.
Motion passed. Okay, I'm gonna read a proclamation of recognition of Dave Landon's years of service on the Planning and Zoning Commission. Dave served on the commission for over 14 years and recently passed away. His family is here tonight. His wife Kay is here, his daughter Maggie, and his son Jonathan. So on behalf of the council and the city, we want to express our sincere sympathies to you in the loss of Dave. We're sorry for your loss, and just want you to know that we appreciate the service that he gave us for all those years. And I'll read this proclamation, and then I will give it to you. You guys can keep it, okay? So, proclamation of recognition of Dave Landon's years of service on the Planning and Zoning Commission. Whereas Dave Landon began serving on the Planning and Zoning Commission on November 20, 2007. And whereas David was an active and faithful member of the commission, and whereas during his 14 years of service to the city's Planning and Zoning Commission, David was an informed and encouraging member, and his perspective was greatly appreciated and beneficial to the commission. And whereas David played a key role in various comprehensive plan updates and other planning efforts, and whereas David faithfully served in the role of chairperson to the Planning and Zoning Commission from 2016 to 2020, and whereas the City of Pella wishes to acknowledge the diligence and dedication with which Dave represented our community. Now therefore I, Don DeWard, Mayor of Pella, on behalf of the City of Pella City Council and the citizens of Pella, do hereby posthumously recognize David Landon for his 14 years of service to the Planning and Zoning Commission, stated this 7th day of December 2021. So I would like to reappoint Amanda Schwarfeger to the Community Service Board. Amanda has been a member of this board since 2016, and she attended 4 of the 6 meetings held to date in 2021. Amanda is a manager of quality and population health at Pella Regional Health Center. Amanda and her husband Dan and their 3 children reside in Pella. Their family participates in many city-sponsored programs, and Amanda has an interest in giving back to her community through serving on this board. If reappointed, Amanda's new 3-year term would expire on January 1, 2025. Can I get a motion for approval?
Support.
DeYoung, Hopkins, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
DeYoung.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Spore.
Yes.
Vanderhorst.
Yes.
Danstruck.
Yes.
Motion passed. I would like to reappoint Arvin Mazzani to the Community Service Board. Arvin has been a member of this board since 2007, and he attended 5 of the 6 meetings held to date in 2021. Arvin is a strong advocate for all programs and services offered through the community center. Arvin is retired from Pella Corporation, where he worked in information technology for over 30 years. He is also a longtime participant in community theater and is well known to Union Street player audiences. He has been involved in theater productions in Pella, Newton, Knoxville, and Des Moines. If reappointed, Arvin's new 3-year term would expire on January 1, 2025. Can I get a motion for approval?
So moved.
Horst, Hopkins, any discussion? All in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Horst.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Spore.
Yes.
DeYoung.
Yes.
DeAnstruck.
Yes.
Motion passed. I would like to reappoint Stephen Fife to the Community Service Board. Stephen has been a member of this board since 2008, and he attended 5 of the 6 meetings held to date in 2021. Stephen has been a Pella resident for more than 23 years. He is a professor of computer science at Central College. His 3 daughters have participated in programs throughout the community center as well as various city-sponsored recreation programs. If reappointed, Stephen's new 3-year term would expire on January 1, 2025. Can I get a motion for approval?
So moved.
Who was it? Hopkins? Spore? Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Spore.
Yes.
DeYoung.
Yes.
Horst.
Yes.
DeAnstruck.
Yes.
Motion passed. This time we have a public forum. Anyone wishing to address council regarding any agenda item, please come forward to the microphone, state your name and address, try to limit your comments to 3 minutes. Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. Can I get a motion for approval of the consent agenda?
So moved.
Support.
DeYoung, Branderhorst, discussion, questions?
I only had a question on the conflict of interest waiver. It's just between us and the municipal, Indianola municipal utilities rather than the city, because they are a separate entity.
Yes, they're an autonomous unit, but they are a separate board. They're within the Indianola, City of Indianola's government, but they're a separate board that's delegated with authority or the City of Indianola's utilities, and so they are a separate entity.
Are they appointed by the city itself? So
Yes, because they're a board of trustees, is my understanding. They do operate somewhat autonomously from the City of Indianola, but it's still within the City of Indianola's government framework. The members are appointed by the mayor and council, but they're charged with overseeing the utilities for it. So it's almost as, when you deal with the City of Indianola, it's almost a separate organization from the city itself. So,
and would the city, I assume, be aware of this too coming up, or doesn't it matter legally?
well, I'm not sure about the dialogue between the City of Indianola and Indianola Municipal Utilities. I do know that the Indianola IMU's Board of Directors has discussed the joint transportation line, the transport line, proposed line with us, and they are aware of this project.
Anything else? All right, all in favor of the motion, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
DeYoung.
Yes.
Horst.
Yes.
DeAnstruck.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Spore.
Yes.
Motion passed. Okay, moving on, public hearing. Public hearing to consider rezoning application for 413 Jefferson Street and 1108 East 2nd Street to change zoning from institutional to multifamily residence. Mike?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'd be happy to explain this item. And for those following at home, I believe I'm on slide number 4 tonight. As Mayor DeWard stated, we are entertaining a rezoning application this evening. This particular application, or request rather, has come to us from Mid-North Properties, and specifically we're looking at the properties at 413 Jefferson Street, along with 1108 East 2nd Street. Now, for reference for the members in the audience, the area that we're talking about, the geographical area, is the yellow highlighted area up on the big board. And if you go just north of here, Pella Regional Hospital is located right up in this area. Now, the rezoning request that we are considering this evening is from institutional zoning to R3 rezoning, which is multifamily residential. When we look at multifamily residential, that's high-density residential for the City of Pella. I believe it permits up to 21 units per acre as far as density dwelling units. Now, the council may be familiar with this property because previously it was the Jefferson Place Care Facility. So, Mandy, let's go ahead, please. Okay, one of the key items, anytime that we receive a rezoning request that we perform at the staff level, and city attorney also looks at this as well, is when we would consider the rezoning request, we always look at the zoning around the property as well. In this particular case, the red highlighted area is the property that's being requested to be rezoned to R3. And as you can see, there is R3 directly to the west of this property. There's also a R2 up here. So between it is multifamily, that R3 that is in close proximity to this rezoning request. Therefore, we do not believe that the rezoning request going to R3 this evening are being requested to rezone this property to R3 constitutes spot zoning, as there's R3 zoning in very close proximity to this property. So let's go ahead, please, Mandy. Now, as far as the comprehensive plan, council is aware, but maybe for members of the audience that are seeing a rezoning request for the first time, one of the key benchmarks that we always compare to and really look at as a guide anytime that we consider a rezoning request is the city's comprehensive plan. Now, there's a couple items that we take a look at and pay particularly close attention anytime we deal for rezoning requests. One of the items that we do consider is the future use land map. I will state when we talk about the future use land map, it's meant to serve as a guide for the community as well, particularly for rezoning requests. In this particular case, when the city's comprehensive plan was drawn or originally drafted, the units in question were used as a medical assisted living facility. So when you see the comprehensive plan here, what you'll notice is it was identified as its current use as far as the future use land map. However, when you look across the street, once again, you have identification of high density residential. And the reason I'm pointing this out is when we look at the comprehensive plan and we look at, one of the things we look at is the future use land map. We also look at the city's land use compatibility matrix to look at the surrounding properties to make sure that we do have uses that are in close conjunction or really aligned from a land use standpoint. In looking at this matter, we believe that the proposed R3 zoning is in conformance with the city's comprehensive plan and also aligns closely with what's in the existing neighborhood as well. I would also like to mention when we talk about conformance with the city's comprehensive plan, it's just not the future use land map or the land use compatibility matrix that we look at. When you talk about conformance, you're talking about conformance with the entire document. The entire document is roughly 140 pages. And in this particular case, when we look at additional housing, what's being proposed for the city of Pella, additional housing was noted in the city's comprehensive plan as a key strategic goal for the city of Pella. So when we look at this particular request, R3 housing, it was noted as a needed item in the comprehensive plan, and it meets a key strategic objective for the city of Pella. We also believe as a guide, the future use land map does identify high-density residential in close proximity to the property. So our opinion in this matter, when we take a look at it from the future use land point stand map, as well as the key strategic goal of additional housing for the community, as well as our land use compatibility matrices, we believe that this request is in conformance with the city's comprehensive plan. So Mandy, let's go ahead, please. I believe we've already set this up here, so we believe that the area or the request as submitted tonight does conform with the city's comprehensive plan. As a result, Mr. Mayor, we are recommending approval of this rezoning request. And finally, staff would also like to note that the Planning and Zoning Commission did consider this ordinance at their November 22nd meeting and unanimously approved the ordinance that we are considering this evening. So with that, that does conclude the staff presentation this evening. We'll be more than happy to answer any questions the mayor or council may have on this item.
All right, thanks, Mike. Mandy, any written comments?
No written comments.
Council, any questions, comments? Carl Lance is here. I don't know the name of the other young man that's with him. They're part of Mid-North, so if you want to ask them any questions, I'm sure they'd be happy to
I'm curious
respond.
whether this is a demolition of the existing structure and start over, or try to salvage, or?
Salvage. So we hired Klinger and Associates and came up with a plan. The building will be completely intact as it is now with some minor improvements outside, just minor updates, but it's a complete redo inside, making 24 residential units, 19 one-bedroom units, and 5 two-bedroom rental housing units.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there anything done to the exterior?
There'll be very little done to the exterior outside of needed repairs and some landscaping, some different modern updates to the paint. But other than that, there's not. The only big difference in the empty lot there, we're going to be required to bring in some parking to since if we make this change, additional parking will be required.
I know it's a little early, but what do you think price point would be for the
This is Nathan Smith, and he's our property manager for other properties. He can probably speak to what he would expect there.
It's going to vary depending on the square footage, but I would expect anywhere from in the upper 5s to the upper 8s, low 9s.
Mandy, could you bring that color-coded map up again, please, of all the different zoning? Is there a little INS, this is more of a Mike question, INS property right south of that?
Actually, I'm going to defer that question back to our planning and zoning director, Jerry Bidos. Jerry?
That is correct. There is a residual INS property at the south of that red line that will stay zoned institutional. The applicant had no use for that in this current plan, so they decided to leave it as institutional. They can come back at a future date to be rezoned or whatever the subsequent plans may be, but it's not part of this rezoning.
It's vacant though?
It is
There's
vacant
nothing on
except
it.
for basically two stall garages on there, one single building.
I guess, I don't know if the city ever starts a rezoning, but it's gonna be a complete island there
Correct.
when it's done.
Mhm.
It would be a little bit odd.
Yeah, that's always at the option of the city council does have the ability to rezone properties as well and initiate rezoning requests as well. And so for issues like this, again, with this rezoning request, and it's really at the developer, the owner's initiation on these two parcels on that, but it's something that still stands vacant or remains idle or still is that island, and that's something that we should reconsider at some future point.
I would agree with that.
Is it owned by Pella Regional?
It's owned by them.
We
Oh, you-
have,
you. Oh, okay.
the seller is holding it until June, at which point we have it under contract to purchase that along with the other parcels.
So the property will be maintained and taken care of.
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
Anything else from council? Any comments from any member of the audience concerning this rezoning? All right, hearing none, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Young, Hopkins, any discussion? All in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
DeYoung.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Spore.
Yes.
Vanderhorst.
Yes.
DeAnstruck.
Yes.
Motion passed. Okay, moving on to the ordinance number 1003 entitled an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance of the City of Pella, Iowa by amending the boundaries of the R3 district to include property located at 413 Jefferson Street and 1108 East 2nd Street, and directing the zoning administrator to note the ordinance number and date of this change on the official zoning map. And this is the first reading. Assume there's nothing to add, Mike?
You are correct, sir.
Can I get a motion for approval?
So moved.
Support.
Branderhorst, DeYoung, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Vanderhorst.
Yes.
DeYoung.
Yes.
DeAnstruck.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Spore.
Yes.
Motion passed. All right, moving on to a public hearing to consider an amendment to the South Main Planned Unit Development. Mike?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd be happy to explain this item. For those following at home, I'm on slide number 8 this evening. As Mayor DeWard stated this evening, what we're entertaining is actually an amendment to the planned unit development for the South Main development. And this is at the request of the developer, RDP Holdings, and specifically what we're looking, RDP has requested the developer, that should be South Main LLC on there as well. And specifically what the developer is proposing with the amendment is to build 4 new single-family attached homes that we have in lieu of the previously approved condominium building for the development. So what we have up here on the big board with the slide and looking at it is probably easier to explain. We also have what was previously approved as well. What was previously approved was a single-family attached home along with the 3 existing buildings that are currently constructed. What the developer has done, and based on the market conditions on there, they look to build 2 additional buildings similar to what was previously approved for the single-family attached home. We'll be going into the details later on in the presentation, but please keep in mind that this is a market-driven request tonight being made by the developer. Now, overall, what the owner is proposing to construct is 24 housing units for the development, of which 18 have already been constructed. So, Mandy, let's go ahead, please. A little bit of background when we talk about planned unit developments. Generally, anytime you hear that terminology under the city code, generally you're speaking about developments that are fairly unique. And this is the case when we talk about this particular development. As the council is aware, in 2018, we did develop the Webster Park Urban Renewal Area. And this was the home to the former Webster Park Webster School that is located up here. And we do have a picture of the Webster School, along with 3 housing units that you can see that were just north of Independence Street as well. Now, overall, when we formed the district in 2018, what we're looking to do is work with the developer in eliminating what we considered blight in our community at the time. And the specific goal was to eliminate blight through economic development for the city. And we believe that this project has accomplished the mission at hand, or the goals of the urban renewal plan that we have stated up here on the big board as well. And as you can see, generally, that is the urban renewal area that we have. And the reason why I'm explaining this is when we talk about the planned unit development, specifically this development, it was on a very constrained site that was home to a former school building on there in a rather complex development. So when we talk about market driven at the time and a high-end housing product, we currently have a very high-end housing product with the 3 buildings that are currently constructed on the site. The developers looked at phase 2 and viewed their options for building phase 2, and this is what they think makes economic sense for the development. And it's also a good fit for the city of Pella as well. So let's go ahead, please, Mandy. Now, overall, as we stated, just to get council up to speed, what we had previously approved was the 3 existing buildings that we have up here. We also approved a single-family attached building that was located right here, and then we had a condominium building. And what the developer is proposing now with this new revision is just in lieu of the condominium building, which is kind of referred to as building number 4, they're looking to build 2 additional single-family residential attached homes that we do have color elevations up on the big board. So Mandy, let's please go ahead. Now, outside of the site layout plan, everything is essentially the same with the planned unit development. However, there is one slight change that we have. If you recall, in building number 4, when it was a condominium building, we also reserved the right, or the developer had the right to have some commercial uses located in building 4. Since building 4 will no longer be a condominium or multifamily housing building at hand, but will rather be 2 single-family attached homes, what the developer is proposing is to allow some commercial uses in building number 1. Now, when we talk about commercial uses, we're talking about one commercial use, that's general office use, which would be allowed in building 1. That would be the only allowable commercial use in building 1. And as I understand, there's one potential tenant that could be constructing at this time general office uses in building 1. The remainder of the buildings will be limited to residential uses within the development as well. So Mandy, let's go ahead, please. Now, as far as the requirements of the ordinance meeting with the city zoning code, please keep in mind that this is an amendment. What we're simply doing is adjusting the housing units and the overall site layout from 36 housing units down to 24 housing units. It's market driven by the developer as well. In addition, we're simply transferring commercial uses that were previously allowed in building number 4, and we're further eliminating those commercial uses to building 1, and specifically by allowing just general office use in building number 1. The only allowable other use on the development for the rest of the properties would be residential use. Now, previously we stated our recommendation is we believe it is in conformance with the city's comprehensive plan. That opinion tonight still carries forward the same. We view this as an amendment proposed by the developer that still meets the overall intent of the city's development plans when we formed the urban renewal area in 2018, and actually shortly thereafter created the planned unit development that we're reviewing this evening. Now, Mr. Mayor, our recommendation this evening is to approve the amendment as submitted. It is also important to note that the Planning and Zoning Commission did consider the same amendment at their November 22nd meeting, and they unanimously approved the ordinance that we are considering this evening. So with that, we'd be more than happy to answer any questions the mayor and council may have on this item.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Any written comments?
One written comment, and it was included in the council packet in support.
Council, questions, comments? You did a good job, Mike. Always got any questions? Any oral comments from any member of the audience concerning this amendment? Okay, hearing none, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Vanstra, Hopkins, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Vanstra.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Ford.
Yes.
DeYoung.
Yes.
Vanderhorst.
Yes.
Motion passed. Moving on to the ordinance number 1004 entitled, an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance of the City of Pella, Iowa by amending the PUD plan for property located at 413 Main Street, City of Pella, Marion County, Iowa. This is the first reading. I assume nothing to add.
You're correct, sir.
And I'll entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Support.
Hopkins for, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Ford.
Yes.
DeYoung.
Yes.
Vanderhorst.
Yes.
Vanstra.
Yes.
Motion passed. Okay, moving on to petitions and communications, a new special Class C liquor license with Class B wine permit, outdoor service and Sunday sales for Pella Hospitality LLC, doing business as Grand Stay Hotel and Suites in Pella. Mike?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, and once again, I'd like to direct the council's attention to the big board for those following at home. I'm on slide number 13 this evening. As Mayor DeWard stated, tonight's request comes to us from Pella Hospitality LLC, doing business as Grand State Hotel and Suites. They are located at 2508 Boss London Drive, and we do have a picture of the hotel up on the big board as well. And specifically what they're applying for is a new Class C liquor license with Class B wine permit, outdoor service, and Sunday sales privileges that, if council would approve, would be effective on December 8th of this year. And a little bit of background on what the reasons for their request as well. It is important to note that the proposed term of the new license would be 12 months and would expire on December 7th, 2022. Now, in consideration of this item, it's important to note that an application has been completed online with the state of Iowa, and staff has also received all the necessary requirements and items from the Grand Stay Hotel, and we are recommending approval this evening. So with that, Mr. Mayor, that concludes our presentation. We'd be more than happy to answer any questions the mayor council may have on this item.
All right, thanks, Mike. Can I get a motion for approval?
So moved. Support.
Vanderhorst for, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Vanderhorst.
Yes.
Ford.
Yes.
DeYoung.
Yes.
Vanstra.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Motion passed. We're considering a new Class C beer permit with Class B wine permit and Sunday sales for Dulgen Corp. LLC, doing business as Dollar General Store, number 2398. Mike?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'd be happy to explain this item, and I'm going to take the easy pass and just call it Dollar General tonight. So that's currently located at 710 Liberty Street. As the mayor said, that they've applied for a new Class C beer permit along with the Class B wine permit and Sunday sales privileges that would become effective on December 8th if approved by the City Council. Very similar to the previous request, the term of the new license would be for 12 months and would expire on December 7th, 2022 if approved by the City Council. The application has been completed online, and tonight we are recommending approval of the request as submitted, Mr. Mayor. And with that, we'd be more than happy to answer any questions on this item.
All right, thank you, Mike. Can I get a motion for approval?
So moved.
Vanstra, Hopkins, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Vanstra.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Ford.
Yes.
DeYoung.
Yes.
Vanderhorst.
Yes.
Motion passed. All right, Mike, a funding request presentation from Heart of Iowa Regional Transport Agency, better known as HERTA. Explain that.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd be happy to explain this, and we'd like to go ahead, and we do have, Mayor DeWard stated, we do have members of HERTA here tonight to explain their request to the City Council. From staff's perspective, it's very important to note that we would intend to discuss this request during the 2023 budget process. As council is aware, we usually conduct our budget work sessions in early February of next year is when they're scheduled, so we'll be specifically talking about this request. So we view tonight's request as just an informational item that we need for additional background information so we can make an informed decision on HERTA's request during our budget process. And so with that, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to go ahead and turn the floor over to the representative tonight from HERTA.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Brooke Ramsey. Did you want me to stand anywhere in particular?
That's
Right there's
fine.
okay?
When everybody can hear, right?
I'm loud if you want me to talk louder. It's very easy for me to do. So I'm Brooke Ramsey with HERTA. I'm the business manager, and just a background about HERTA, we are the state designated transit system for what's called Region 11 that covers 7 counties in central Iowa including Marion County and thus Pella. We've been providing transportation in the community since 1981, and the service is open to the public. Anybody can ride. They don't have to qualify. There's no income restrictions. There's no disability requirements. Just anybody can ride for any reason. So in fiscal year 21, of course, the pandemic had some drastic changes for us, and we provided about 4,800 rides just here in the city of Pella for Pella residents. That doesn't take into account the people that we're bringing in from other communities who come here for healthcare, shopping, education, employment. We had an on-time performance of over 96%. We're very proud of that. As an industry, public transportation, anytime you can get your on-time performance above 90%, it's considered excellent. The people that we provide services to in Pella ranged in age last year from 18 to 94 years old. 59% of the riders are over the age of 60. 57 of them have some form of a disability. So they could be both. They could be over 60 and have a disability as well. Due to COVID, of course, there was a decrease in demand for services, the popularity of things like telehealth and folks just staying home. We did also have an increased cost to provide the service. I'm sure you can imagine sanitation protocols have increased. And we've experienced some challenges with increased cancellations and no-shows. So we see that a lot for employment, if the employers can't keep them busy, or with healthcare, even appointments getting canceled. So last year in fiscal year 19, we were able to create a 501c3. So HERTA itself is a governmental body. We, as a governmental body, I'm sure you know, there are certain things that come with great benefits, like being able to purchase our tires and vehicles on state contracts, but there are some things that aren't so great, like being able to seek grant funding that should be available to us, but isn't because of our governmental status. So we created a 501c3 specifically for fundraising, and there are some technology discounts that 501c3s have available that HERTA does not. We also got some grants. We're awarded a federal Mobility for All grant, and we're able to hire a mobility coordinator. So he's now certified as a travel trainer and can come and do group travel training. He can do train the trainer. So if you happen to work somewhere and you need to get employees to your facility, or you have customers that need to get trained how to get to you, he can train you to do that, or he can work with the individuals one-on-one. And also, for the first time ever, HERTA was awarded an AmeriCorps grant for Marion County last year to start an RSVP. I did give Mandy a flyer that can be put up at City Hall, and I have some brochures as well. But an RSVP is a retired senior volunteer program, so it's people 55 and older who want to serve in their community. And our program is specifically geared toward healthy futures, so it can be a companionship. In fact, we had someone who called, and he has a disability and would like help having someone come and help make notes in his Bible. So that might be what companionship looks like for him. For me, it might be coming and sitting with me at church. It could be anything that you wanted it to be. Come over and play chess, whatever that might be for you. There's also access to nutrition. So that may be getting you rides to a local food pantry. It could be doing some light shopping for you, whatever you might need as far as accessing good, healthy, nutritional foods. And then a volunteer medical transportation. So this would be a little bit different than what HERTA currently provides. It would be individuals who would drive their own vehicles on their own time as a volunteer, and they would be paired up one-on-one with people needing to get to medical appointments or to the pharmacy. So that would be much more convenient if you were doing a long distance trip like to Des Moines or to Iowa City for specialty care, rather than waiting on a whole shuttle full of people to be ready to come back to your community. So that was a lot of information. Do you have any questions for me?
So this is the first time you've started the funding requests among the incorporated cities within your territory?
This is the third year we've made the request.
Okay. And what's been the percentage of the communities that have ponied up?
I don't know the percentage off the top of my head, but we do have several that contribute, like the City of Newton, the City of Waukee, Norwalk, Adel. There's some smaller cities like Ogden. So it really kind of ranges, and it's each community. Part of the reason that we ask for funding is we do get federal funding and state funding, and we do get some funding from the county. But even combined, that doesn't pay our full cost to provide the service. And the federal funding does have a match requirement, and it's a 50-50 for operational funds. So for every dollar that we get in federal funding, we have to find a matching dollar for that. And if we aren't able to find the matching funds, we have to take that funding for that community and move it somewhere else or not be able to use it. So we're really challenged during the pandemic because it was hard to find match funding before, but it's even more difficult now because a lot of the contracted services that we provided, we're now no longer doing because of the pandemic. That doesn't include capital funding. I know I said operational, but capital funding would be our vehicles. Iowa has the second oldest fleet in the United States for public transportation. We're working on that with the infrastructure bills in partnership with the Iowa DOT. But those vehicles, typically we run those twice or 3 times their useful life. And in federal funding, we get about 80 to 85% of the vehicle covered, and we still have to come up with other funding to make that local match.
Are you still the main transportation provider for the Christian Opportunity Center?
We do still work with them, yes.
But are you the main transportation provider for them?
I guess I don't know. I probably can't answer that. I don't know all of the services that they provide. I do know at one point they had several minivans they were using, but I don't know the percentage of what that looks like.
And then the riders pay a fee, correct, to use your services?
Some of them do. We do still do some contracted services like with Medicaid. So in some cases people have a trip that's paid for by another entity. We also work with Aging Resources of Central Iowa so that seniors, people age 60 and up, if they're living independently, can ride on a donation basis. But yeah, in general, our general public fare is $2.50 each way.
And then it isn't the kind of thing, or is it the kind of thing where somebody calls and they get a ride immediately? I remember working when I worked at the Christian Opportunity Center, I worked with you, Brooke, and there was a 24-hour kind of a reservation window. Is that still the case, or do you?
If we have room on the driver's schedule, we'll take them the same day.
Okay.
Right now, we're still doing mostly demand response, which is you call the day before so that we can efficiently schedule the route. We did do a new business plan in 2020. That is one great thing that came out of the pandemic. And we are actively working on ways to expand mobility on demand services. So we're looking at doing a couple of different things. Here in Pella, a potential route type service that would be more flexible for people, and incorporating smaller vehicles that can do that on demand. I don't want to call it taxi style service, but you realize you run low on toilet paper or something and you need to go to the store now, or your car didn't start and you need a ride to work, something that's more flexible for people. So we do want to diversify the way that we deliver the services, which is part of what led to our application for the RSVP program.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else? Any other questions? Okay, thanks a lot for the information.
Thank you.
As Mike said, we'll be considering it during our budget process.
Okay, thank you. Have a great evening.
All right, moving on to resolutions. Resolution number 6361 entitled Resolution Approving Change Order Number 2 to the construction contract with XL Utility Contractors, LLC for the fiber to the premise transport network north materials and construction project. Mike?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd be happy to explain this item. For those following at home, I'm on slide number 16 this evening. And tonight we do have 2 resolutions on the agenda that pertain to our transport route north to Grinnell for Pella Fiber. The first one considers the change order, and I would say the change order that we do have for the project is the final reconciliation change order on the materials and methods used to construct the transport line. And the second resolution that we are considering this evening is acceptance of the project this evening. So a little bit of background on this. As far as the transport route to Grinnell, it's just shy of 34 miles, and it is this yellow highlighted line that we have as the general route to Grinnell that we do use to connect for Pella Fiber on here at Grinnell Regional Hospital that we have. I believe it's actually Unity Point Hospital that we have for this. And so with the route that we have this evening, the route has been constructed and is currently in operation by Pella Fiber on it. So let's go ahead, please, Mandy. Now, as far as the contract resolution that we do have this evening, if you recall, we said the change order is the final reconciliation, both for materials and also recognizes the methods that we use to construct the route. It is in the amount of $136,860. And really, the driving force for this change order was approximately 19,500 linear feet of the route was a utility conduit that originally was bid by Newcom, that is the engineer on the project, and they anticipated the contractor being able to plow that portion of the route, but due to steep ditches and wet areas, it could not support the weight of this plow, so they actually had to bore the area as well. And that drove up the cost of this as well for the project as well, and that's really the lion's share of the change order that we are considering this evening. We do think it is important to know when we look at the overall construction cost of the project, it came in at $1,372,577. That is still significantly below the engineer's original estimate for the project of $1,542,000 as well. So again, that is the lion's share of the change order that we are considering this evening, which is the final change order for the project. The second resolution that we have on the agenda tonight is just simply accepting the project as the engineer has deemed the project is complete. The city is currently using the line that we have, the transport line as well, and believes that and also the engineer, which is Newcom on the project, believes the line was, actually the transport line was constructed in accordance with the approved plans and specifications for the project. So with that, Mr. Mayor, that concludes our presentation for this item. We'd be more than happy to answer any questions the mayor and council may have on this item.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Can I get a motion for approval?
So moved.
DeYoung, Hopkins, questions, discussion?
Did the steep ditch lines change after they did the bid?
What's that?
Did the steep ditch lines change after they did the bid?
No, when they originally looked through the whole project, that was in the spring, and the grass was high. They didn't walk through every ditch all the way from here to Grinnell, on foot to find it. There were a couple of spots where they bought a machine that was actually on a track trying to get it done, and the road itself out the track was too steep. So,
I guess when I first read it, it seemed like that was something that, with technology, could have been somewhat figured out before.
I don't think they walked the entire route. They drove a good bit of it through and spot checked different areas. That having a machine there to see what it could do or couldn't do at the time.
Anything else? Okay, all in favor of the resolution, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
DeYoung.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Spore.
Yes.
Vanderhorst.
Yes.
DeAnstruck.
Yes.
Motion passed. Moving on, resolution number 6362, entitled Resolution Accepting Fiber to the Premise Transport Network, North Materials and Construction. I assume nothing to add, Mike?
That is correct, Mr. Mayor. We'd just like to simply just remind council this is the acceptance of the project.
Can I get a motion for approval?
So moved.
Support.
DeYoung, Branderhorst, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
DeYoung.
Yes.
Vanderhorst.
Yes.
DeAnstruck.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Spore.
Yes.
Motion passed. Resolution number 6363, entitled Resolution Approving and Authorizing Execution of a Partial Assignment and Assumption of an Agreement for Private Development from RDP Holding LLC to Pella Entertainment Group LLC. Mike?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Once again, I'd like to direct the council's attention to the big board for a brief presentation on this item. For those following at home, I am on slide number 19 this evening. As Mayor DeWard stated, what this resolution would do is approve the partial assignment of the Prairie Ridge Commercial Development Agreement for Lot 1, specifically for Lot 1, which is the proposed location of Smash Park, a regional entertainment center from RDP Holdings to the Pella Entertainment Group. It is important to note that we did discuss this assignment during policy and planning on November 16th of this year. And equally important to note in considering this item, and it's very important as far as the contract is concerned, RDP Holdings can assign its rights and obligations under the development agreement they have with the City of Pella. And it is subject to City Council approval. However, we cannot unreasonably withhold our approval for the assignment this evening. So in looking at this assignment, the reason the developer is requesting to assign this to Pella Entertainment Group is Pella Entertainment Group is actually the entity that will be constructing the Smash Park and also operating the Smash Park development, Smash Park Regional Entertainment Center, excuse me. So with this, what the developer views is their rights and obligations. What they're simply trying to align under the development agreement is they're trying to assign their rights and benefits under the development agreement for the proposed Smash Park to Pella Entertainment Group, as well as the obligations that they have under the city's development agreement as well to Pella Entertainment Group. Now, with that, the City of Pella looks at assignments, and what we've traditionally done is we've reviewed assignments as risk management for the City of Pella. And philosophically, we take the approach that any assignments from a developer on a development agreement should not fundamentally or philosophically increase our level of risk. In presenting this case tonight, we believe that the city's assignment, approval of this assignment, will not increase the city's risk other than above and beyond what we had with the original development agreement. And the reason for this is under the terms of the assignment, RDP Holdings would still be obligated in the event of a default for the entire development on it as well. So we actually have two parties that would be obligated in the event of a default on it. And that's why we feel, from our standpoint, that the city's risk would not be increased as a result of this assignment as well. So that's a key point to keep in mind when we consider assignments, and that's really one of the main points that we always consider in making recommendations to the City Council. So Mandy, let's go ahead, please. What we have listed up here on this slide is just a little bit of a summary of the responsibilities for each entity under the agreement. So let's start off with the developer. What the developer is RDP Holdings. When we look at the proposed Smash Park and the development as a whole, what the developer is obligated to do is build the public infrastructure for the development. That is the street extension and associated utilities. The estimated cost of that's about $1.1 million. Once that's completed, they are required to dedicate that to the City of Pella free of charge. So at that point in time, the City of Pella would own the street and associated utilities. The developer is also required to sign a $5 million minimum assessment with a 2% annual increase to Smash Park. And actually, I believe that's one of the items that we would actually be assigning to the Smash Park, to Pella Regional Entertainment on this as well. So Entertainment Group, excuse me. So that's a duplicate. That is not an obligation by RDP Holdings. RDP Holdings, it is important to note that we'd still be obligated to construct a fast casual restaurant by December of 2024. And when we look at the minimum tax assessment for this as well, minimum tax assessment would be $2 million with a 2% annual increase for the restaurant. When we get to Pella Entertainment Group, they would be required to construct the proposed Smash Park Regional Entertainment Center by December of next year. It would need to be in operation. They would also need to sign and agree to a $5 million minimum tax assessment for the property. That assessment would go up 2% annually as well. And then if you look at the city's development agreement, we also have, I'd say, several operating requirements for the proposed Smash Park. The Pella Entertainment Group would need to be in compliance with those operating requirements as long as the development agreement is in place as well. So that's very important to keep in mind. Now let's go ahead and talk about the City of Pella's responsibilities. Mandy, please go to our responsibilities. And they remain largely the same as what we had under the original development agreement. So our main responsibilities with this as well is when we look at these two buildings that we have under the development, we're very hopeful there'll be more development out there with commercial property, but we base the base development agreement under these two buildings. Now, when we talk about the proposed Smash Park, once the building is built and it receives a certificate of occupancy of the City of Pella, which means it's been built in accordance with our standards, public infrastructure has been completed and dedicated to the City of Pella, 150 days after that's incurred, as far as the incentive, the city would make a $1.5 million payment to Pella Entertainment Group. Now, as far as the certificate of occupancy for the restaurant out there, that same payment would be $500,000, and it would be after 30 days after the certificate of occupancy for the restaurant. They have until 2024 for that. So overall, we were looking at $2 million for this development on there. So our obligations did not change as a result of the assignments. It's important to note, under the development agreement, when we look at the development agreement is over the course of 20 years with this. And so for our $2 million, when we talked about the minimum tax assessments, if you recall, we said the Smash Park would have to sign a base agreement of $5 million. That goes up 2% each year on there. The fast casual restaurant would be $2 million initially. That goes up 2% annually as well. How we would pay ourselves back is we would capture taxes within that development that would be generated in that development. Those property tax revenues that are called tax increment financing would be used to pay the city's $2 million back on this as well. Once the city has been entirely paid back on our initial offerings for these incentives, the developer would be eligible for additional property tax rebates from still the property taxes generated within the development, upwards of $2 million. Keep in mind, this is over 20 years. The developer has every incentive to build this development out as quickly as possible, because that is the incentive to do it, because they'd be eligible for $2 million in additional what's called property tax rebates from property taxes generated within the development. It's also important to keep in mind, in order for the developer to be eligible for that, the development needs to be in good standings, which means the Smash Park and fast casual restaurant need to be operated in accordance with the city's development agreement as well. So fundamentally, the key takeaway is on this assignment is the city's risk has not increased as a result of this assignment. RDP Holdings is still responsible in the event of a default for the entire development, the same as what they were for the original development. Key thing is that we have Pella Entertainment Group that's also obligated for any defaults as well. So once again, the city's terms and the development agreement have not changed what we originally approved back with this as well. So let's go ahead, please, Mandy. Now, it is important to note, and we'll briefly go over this, but we covered this in fairly significant, I'd say we went over this in fairly great detail when we approved the development agreement as well. But in looking at the city's obligations, we did hire D.A. Davidson to review this proposed incentive payments as well as the development as a whole. And the key thing from our financial advisor is we wanted to make sure when we set these minimum tax assessment agreements on it that they had enough property tax generated to pay the city's debt issuance cost on the $2 million, and we could actually have relative assurance that we would be paid back our incentive money. The analysis that D.A. Davidson looked at was a fairly conservative analysis. The base case was over 20 years and assumed the case that there would be only 2 buildings built in the development. That would be the fast casual restaurant as well as the Smash Park. And they also had a modest growth case. Instead of 2 buildings, we'd have 3 buildings on the development over 20 years. And in the event of both scenarios, they projected that the city's debt issuance would be repaid from property taxes with the development. So again, based on just 2 buildings, what we're talking about is projected to have enough property tax revenues to pay back the city's debt issuance cost. In addition, the developer with those 2 buildings under both scenarios would also be projected rebates under both cases as well. So with that, based on the financial analysis of D.A. Davidson, we had relative confidence that the property taxes generated from the development would be enough to repay the city back over time. Again, so key takeaway is property taxes paid by the development generated new property taxes for new buildings that currently exist or are currently being constructed. Those property taxes would be used to repay the city back over time as well. So let's go ahead, please, Mandy. Now, in summary, as we previously stated, we believe that the proposed assignment does not increase the city's risk associated with the Prairie Ridge commercial development. In addition, it is important to note that this assignment has been reviewed by the city's legal counsel, and as a result, Mr. Mayor, we are recommending approval of the resolution, which is the partial assignment of the development agreement. This assignment is just for Lot 1, which is the proposed Smash Park Regional Entertainment Center. And so with that, we'd be happy to address any questions the mayor and council may have on this item.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Can I get a motion for approval of the resolution?
So moved.
Support.
Banster, Spore, discussion, questions? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
DeAnstruck?
Yes.
Spore?
Yes.
DeYoung?
Yes.
Reindeerhorst?
Yes.
Hopkins?
Yes. Motion on resolution number 6364 entitled Resolution Approving, Ordering the Preparation of Plans and Specifications, Form of Contract, Notice of Hearing, and Notice of Letting, setting date for public hearing, authorizing the taking of bids, and authorizing bid opening for the sanitary sewer, is it, you call it CHIP or CIPP lining project?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd be happy to explain this item. The key takeaway, as Mayor DeWard stated, what we have is a proposed sanitary sewer lining project, and what this resolution simply does, and the key takeaway, is it authorizes staff to conduct a public hearing for the project on January 18th, 2022, and it also authorizes us to solicit bids for the project. Now, what we have up here is aligning this various sanitary sewer lines throughout our community. What you see up here on the big board is anything in green is a part of the base bid what we have. Now, traditionally, what we also do, just to ensure in case we get really good bid prices, we include additional lines, and they're also located as additional alternatives for the base bid as well. So we do have those that are identified in red as well as far as alternatives. Now, Denny, when we talk about lining the sanitary sewer lines, could you give us an easy explanation of what that entails as far as a project?
Yeah, I know we have a lot of new faces since the last time we did this. I did have a sample I carried around, and we can't seem to find it. Yard through there's way. It actually goes in, it's a sock, comes on a roll, goes in soft. It gets blown from one manhole to the other. It gets blown up, pressurized, and then it's steam cured for 2 to 3 hours. But it ends up with this almost 7/16 hard shell that will fault conform to the pipe that's there. So if the pipe's slightly oval, it will at least smooth it out. So yeah, it robs a little bit of capacity, but you gain because you're improving the coefficiency of the smoothness because you've got cracks and pieces falling out and this and that. And then immediately following that, they have to solve the holes for each service and put them back on. So you notice everybody in that block. You knock on the door and say, hey, please don't wash clothes between this period and that period. You can flush a couple toilets, no big deal. But yeah, at some point I'll find the sample and we'll bring it. But after it's cured, it's hard. We build sewers in the public arena. We hope they last 50 to 100 years, and a lot of our sewers in Pella are over 100 years old, but they're old clay pipes with loose joints. And then, of course, the other thing it's doing for us is eliminating the I&I, the infiltration in clear water. It holds that out for the most part. Yeah, some of it chases it down and gets in by the surface. But so we're trying to extend the life of those clay sewers by hopefully another 50 years in some cases.
I was going to say, is there an estimate on the life?
It's a petroleum, kind of a PVC once it cures out. And that's what the acronym is. It's just fancy, but I forget what the acronym actually is. But I'll bring a sample at some point here as we go into budget, just to show you. Between now and the award, we'll find those samples and show you what it looks like.
Those areas that you've picked, are they problem areas, or are they just part of a regular plan that you long-term plan?
As you know, you've heard some, we have a 10-year televising cleaning program, so we get through every sewer in town every 10 years. We pick out a particular, and then we just follow that routine. These are areas that have been found to have multiple cracks, some ovaling a little bit. If we find an ultimate failure or something collapsing, we may do a spot repair in a couple of these blocks, and probably have already done it over the years, and then we'll line it to gain some structural stability for that block. Because of course, anytime you got to reconstruct it, the pavement's got to come out first. Storm sewers usually, all of a sudden, one block is $250,000. We're here, we're open for bids at $25 to $30 a lineal foot. That's what the engineer's estimate's based on. A couple months ago when we started into this, we were hearing really good numbers. But if any of you have ordered anything lately, the prices are just taking off. So we're anxious to see this bid letting go through. And some of these kind of companies, they've bought ahead, so they've got a yard full of it. But they also advised us to try and get a project north of $100,000. Then they can take advantage, give us an advantage of better prices too. So.
What does the associated sewer work mean? They run across things where we do have to tear up and repair?
We hope that won't happen on this group. We're looking at the televised. We take a ride down through the sewer and revisit it. And actually, when they get here, they'll clean it first, televise it themselves. And if we do have a catastrophe going on we didn't know about, we would do that. That's not included in this. That would be unusual Because we've judged these, okay, they got 2 cracks up top, everything's holding together, these are good candidates, let's go line it. You know, if we got multiple cracks or we're missing pieces, it's already sucking dirt in, and you have this void under the pavement already, and then those need dug up. But some of the other associated work is drilling the hole and getting that service back going.
I still don't understand how they do that.
They keep track, you know, today's GPS, and they know exactly where that hole is. From the first time through televising it. They don't miss them very often.
So how long a process is that?
Like say, each segment takes a good share of a day, you might say.
So you line it and punch all the holes all in one
They
day?
pull the soft piece through, it comes off a roll, off the
Okay,
back of a truck,
yeah, yeah.
because it's flexible. You just
Yeah.
pull it through. And then they seal both ends so they can pump it full of air, and then they pump it full of hot steam essentially to cure it
Mhm.
for about 3 to 4 hours. And then once it cools down, it's rock hard.
And then they go punch the holes right
And then they
away?
punch the holes just as soon as possible. And while it's cooling, they can get that process going.
Okay.
So if we're in a commercial area or restaurant, we can, you know, they'll go in there and robotically go open those surfaces up as soon as possible.
Sounds like quite a process.
If you get too interested, we'll get you out in the truck to watch.
Well, if you can make them last 50 more years, I'm not gonna have to worry about it.
That's the
Probably
goal.
not you either.
Yeah, no. We may be optimistic, but that's the goal. Because of the cost to totally reconstruct.
All right. Any other questions? Did I ask for a motion? Okay. So, I need a motion for approval.
So moved.
Or
Brian Horst DeYoung. All in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Vanderhorst.
Yes.
DeYoung.
yes,
DeAnstruck.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Ford.
Yes.
Motion passed. Moving on, resolution number 6365 entitled Resolution Approving Engineering Services Agreement with Garden and Associates for the Old City Hall Alley Reconstruction. Mike?
Oh, yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd be happy to explain this item, and as Mayor Ward stated, what we're considering this evening is the old City Hall reconstruction project. As council's aware, for the Port Alleyway project this year, we just completed that reconstruction project, or actually we're in the process of completing it. But for the alleyway itself, we actually took an asphalt alleyway and we restored it back to a brick alleyway. What's being proposed for this project is the old City Hall alleyway. The reason we call it the old City Hall alleyway is we were for years located at 717 Main Street, and that was the alleyway that abutted the old City Hall. So it could be called the Garsma Bakery alleyway as well, but just to orientate everyone, Franklin Street's up here. The Happy Joe's, Dollar General, Subway building is located right over here. Broadway is right over here. The project that we're talking about is this alleyway, this purple highlighted alleyway that we have right here. Now, what's being proposed is a contract with Garden and Associates for the engineering of the project that you have. And from our standpoint, it'll be complete street reconstruction along with utility replacement as well for the project. And we are proposing that it be very similar to the Oosport Alleyway project, where it's actually a brick alley as well that's being proposed as well. So let's go ahead, please, Mandy. Now, we do have lots of experience with Garden, and when you get in these tight projects, particularly in the downtown, it takes a lot of coordination with it. So as we consider the engineering fees tonight, please keep in mind that these projects, and what I mean by tight, if you were to walk that alley, you'll see the businesses that abut right up to this alleyway as well. And from a construction standpoint, this is going to be a tight project. Well, actually, we got a picture of it right up here on the big board that you see right here. It butts up right to businesses that are located right on the alleyway. So that always increases the complexity of these projects as well. But overall, when we talk about a contract with Garden and Associates, we're looking at fees of not to exceed $84,000, and we do have the breakdown on this, which includes the design phase of the project, which is just over $32,000, as well as the construction observation phase, and that's a very important phase of just under $49,000 as well. Now, as far as the complete preliminary construction cost estimate for the project is just over $451,000. So when we look at the engineering fees in relation, it's a short stretch. but it's in a high-profile area, and it abuts businesses that are literally right up on the alleyway as well. So it's a complex project, even for this short stretch that we are doing. But overall, in reviewing the engineering fees and the task at hand, we believe the engineering fees are reasonable for the complexity of the project. And so with that, Mr. Mayor, we are recommending approval of the project. And the reason this is somewhat timely this evening is we are planning on constructing or reconstructing this alley during 2022, the summer of 2022. So with that, we'd be more than happy to answer any questions on the proposed contract with Garden and Associates for the engineering for the old City Hall alleyway project.
All right, thanks, Mike. Can I get a motion for approval?
So moved.
Support Brandon Horsley Young. Discussion, questions?
Does this include electric underground, or is that already underground?
Yeah, it's already underground in our way, I believe. Just like last time. Yeah, so's the fiber and Windstream and Mediacom.
Yeah, utility relocations are fairly on it, but as far as the plans on it, that may be a separate item that's above and beyond handled on the electric side.
Anything else? All right, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Reindeerhorst?
Yes.
DeYoung?
Yes?
Danstruck?
Yes.
Hopkins?
Yes.
Spore?
Motion passed. Abstract of bills number 2092. Can I get a motion for approval?
Move to approve and issue warrants.
Brandon Horn,
Support.
Manstra. Any discussion, questions? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Reindeerhorst?
Yes.
Danstruck?
Yes.
Hopkins?
Yes.
Spore? Yes. DeYoung?
Yes?
Motion passed. All right, any council member have any other business that we need to address this evening? Hearing none, any member of the public have any other business you'd like to present to the council this evening? If so, please come forward, state your name and address. Try to limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Keith Oxburton, 224 South Street. The $2 million grant to Smash Park. If they default, does the city lose their grant? Or does it come back?
As far as the default, we'd have the developer would be responsible in the event of defaults.
And then the city would get their grant money back?
Yes, that is the intent of the development agreement. The developer would be obligated in the event of a default.
Okay. More development going on after Smash Park, right? More businesses and entertainment, whatever, such?
Yeah, that's hopefully the plan, yes.
Yes. And will the city be obligated to grant them money also? Or do you see that they will be established enough that they can go on their own?
As far as additional development, that's always a case-by-case analysis on it, so it depends on the case at hand and the needs of the city of Pella.
How do you feel it go?
What's,
How is your feeling on that? You feel like the city's going to need to, or do you feel like it'll be able to go on its own?
well, that'll be an analysis. That's a specific question asked on a specific time. It depends when the development occurs. It depends what the needs of the city of Pella are. And it depends on what the developer is proposing. So it'll be reviewed on a case-by-case basis like all development is for the city of Pella.
A couple weeks ago, Mr. Mayor addressed us with some comments of information and misinformation, the possibility of. It was good that you clarified a lot of things. That was great. You know, keeping transparency, information flow. We learned a lot from that night. And I wanted to say that I did not provide misinformation. I just want to clarify things because I'm pretty vocal, so, and I get shot that I might have had, but I wanted to clarify. That wasn't me. I would have got a letter if it was mine. But yeah, I want to congratulate you and really thank you for so much information was brought forth that night. And if we'd known that information earlier, it'd probably never been out there in the first place. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. You're welcome. Thanks for your comments.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Okay, so we're going to go into an exempt session, so unless anyone wants to hang around till we're done, we're gonna ask you to leave and we'll just do it in here.
Chapter 21.9 to discuss employment conditions of employees not covered by collective bargaining agreements.
Support.
Hopkins, Spore. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Hopkins,
Yes.
Spore,
Yes.
DeYoung,
Yes.
Branderhorst, Banstra.
Yes.
All right, so we are back in open session, and I would ask for a motion to approve resolution number 6366, entitled Resolution Amending the Infectious Disease Action Plan Policy related to the COVID-19 public health crisis.
So moved.
Support.
Branderhorst, DeYoung, any discussion? All in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Branderhorst,
Yes.
DeYoung,
Yes.
Banstra, Hopkins,
Yes.
Spore.
Yes.
Motion passed. I will now entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Banstra, Spore. All in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Banstra,
Yes.
Spore,
Yes.
DeYoung,
Yes.
Branderhorst,
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Motion passed. We are adjourned.